The world said it was insane. The Airbus A380 was dead, the future belonged to smaller jets, and no one needed a mega hub in the desert. But Emirates disagreed. They doubled down, buying more of the plane everyone else abandoned. How did Emirates build a global empire on two aircraft types the rest of the world gave up on? What did they see that no one else did, while creating the most powerful long-haul airline on Earth without buying a single competitor? Here's what really happened. To understand how Emirates won, you have to understand the game they refused to play. In the 80s and 90s, the airline industry consolidated. Giants were built through mergers and acquisitions. British Airways and Iberia became IAG. Lufthansa swallowed Swiss, Austrian, and Brussels Airlines. Air France and KLM merged. The logic was simple: buy your competitors, absorb their routes, and dominate the market. Emirates took the opposite approach. They mostly committed aviation heresy, avoiding acquisitions. On October 25, 1985, Emirates launched with a $10 million seed investment from Dubai's government. But this wasn't a blank check. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum was clear. After the initial investment, the airline had to be self-funding. It posted a profit in its second year and, remarkably, stayed profitable for decades, until its first loss during the 2020-21 pandemic year, before returning to record profits. This weakness, this refusal to buy other airlines, became their superpower. While competitors were bogged down integrating mismatched fleets, warring unions, and clashing corporate cultures, Emirates had a clean slate. No legacy costs, no pension deficits, no baggage. They were free to build a perfect airline, exactly as they wanted it, from the ground up. This wasn't a subsidy in the way their rivals claimed. It was patient capital. While CEOs at Delta or Lufthansa were forced to answer to shareholders every 90 days, Emirates had one long-term stakeholder. They could reinvest 100% of their profits into aggressive growth, amassing over $48 billion in assets by 2024. They weren't just building an airline, they were building a weapon. But here's the first problem: a perfect airline is worthless if it has no passengers. And Dubai, a tiny emirate of 3.5 million people, had no natural domestic market to feed it. So how do you build a global hub in the middle of nowhere? This is where the impossibility becomes genius. On paper, Dubai shouldn't work. It's a geographic anomaly. It has an extreme climate, with summer temperatures hitting 50 degrees Celsius. Unlike London, New York, or Tokyo, it has a very small local population. It sits far from any traditional major city pair routes. But Emirates didn't look at a map and see a desert. They saw the center of the world. Within an 8-hour flight of Dubai lives 70% of the world's population. It is the perfect geographic sweet spot to connect Europe and Africa with Asia and Australia. Emirates didn't just build a hub-and-spoke model, they perfected it. They turned the sixth freedom into an art form. The sixth freedom is the right to carry passengers between two foreign countries with a stop in your own. Think London to Sydney via Dubai, or New York to Bangkok via Dubai. This became the core of their business. Historically, about 60% of Emirates passengers were purely connecting traffic, though in recent years, that mix has shifted closer to 40% connecting and 60% origin and destination. To make this machine work, they needed an airport that was as ambitious as they were. So, they built it. Dubai International, DXB, became the planet's most connected piece of tarmac. In 2008, they opened Terminal 3, a $4.5 billion behemoth that initially added 43 million passengers of capacity, bringing the airport to 60 million, built exclusively for Emirates. By 2019, before the global shutdown, DXB was the world's busiest airport for international passengers, handling a staggering 86.4 million people. Emirates proved that geography isn't destiny, it's strategy. They turned a desert into the crossroads of the world. But here's the next contradiction. This massive connecting machine was incredibly efficient, but it was also completely isolated. In the global airline industry, no one survives alone. To get connecting passengers from other airlines, you have to join a club. Emirates refused. In modern aviation, alliances are everything. Star Alliance, Oneworld, and SkyTeam are the three pillars that hold up the industry. They are massive revenue-sharing, code-sharing fraternities. They feed you passengers from partner airlines, fill your seats, and cover the gaps in your network. For a global carrier, not joining an alliance isn't just a quirky business decision. For nearly 40 years, Emirates committed this heresy. They never joined. Why? The answer is simple: control. Emirates saw alliances as a compromise. Joining one would mean sharing revenue, which analysts estimate can be 10 to 15% off the top. It would mean bending their schedule to fit a partner's hub in Frankfurt or Chicago. Most importantly, it would mean diluting the brand. Emirates was not interested in handing their high-paying premium customers over to another airline for the last leg of their journey. They wanted total end-to-end control of the Emirates experience. If a passenger booked with them, they flew with them. So while their competitors built networks through alliances, Emirates built its own, one destination at a time. They grew a massive independent network of over 150 destinations across 6 continents. Instead of joining a global alliance, they forged a few key bilateral pacts, like their major code share with Qantas and a strategic partnership with their sister low-cost airline, Fly Dubai. This independence kept their brand pure, their operations nimble, and their profits in-house. They proved that you didn't need to be in a club if you were the club. But a pure brand is worthless if the product inside is hollow. And in an era where flying was becoming a miserable race to the bottom, Emirates made its most audacious bet yet. They bet on luxury. While the entire industry was racing to the bottom, Emirates was racing to the top. In the 2000s, legacy carriers in the US and Europe were in a panic. Low-cost carriers were eating their lunch. Their response was to copy them. They introduced basic economy, ripped out seatback screens, shrank legroom, and started charging for bags. Flying became a commodity. Emirates looked at this trend and did the exact opposite. They decided to make flying luxurious again. They weren't just installing seats, they were building flying hotel rooms. They became famous for the impossible: private first-class suites, onboard lounges, and, most audaciously, onboard showers in their Airbus A380s. While other airlines cut back on entertainment, Emirates invested heavily in their ICE system, growing it to over 6,500 channels. They installed gelato bars. They served premium champagne in business and first class with sparkling wine or paid champagne options in economy. This wasn't just a marketing gimmick, it was a core strategy to justify their hub model. They trained their 20,000-strong cabin crew, sourced from 160 nationalities, for 6 intensive weeks, far exceeding the industry standard of 4. This obsession with service created an experience that passengers would pay a premium for. Analysts estimate 15 to 20% more. It made the Emirates experience a tangible asset. It gave people a reason to choose a one-stop flight through Dubai over a non-stop flight on a cramped, soulless competitor. They proved that in a commoditized industry, quality is the ultimate differentiator. But to deliver this premium experience consistently at a global scale, you need the right tools. And that led to the biggest, most expensive gamble in aviation history. Look at the fleet of a legacy carrier like Delta or Lufthansa. It's a complex, fragmented mess. They fly dozens of different aircraft types from different manufacturers. Airbus A320s for short-haul, Boeing 737s for domestic, 787s, A330s, and 777s for long-haul. Every plane requires different pilots, different cabin crews, different maintenance parts, and different training. It's an operational nightmare. Emirates' strategy? Radical simplicity. They built their entire intercontinental empire on just 2 aircraft types, the Boeing 777 and the Airbus A380. That's it. They became the largest operator of both planes on Earth. At their peak, they had 155 777s and 123 A380s. This 2-fleet focus created staggering economies of scale. Maintenance costs were slashed by an estimated 30%. Pilot and crew training was streamlined. They could swap aircraft on routes seamlessly to match demand, and because they ordered in such massive, unprecedented bulk, like their 90-plane order in 2007, they commanded discounts of 40% or more off list prices. They became the most important customer for both Airbus and Boeing. In fact, they were the A380 program. When other airlines airlines like Qantas and Air France cancelled their orders, calling the superjumbo a failed concept, Emirates doubled down. They were the lifeline that kept the A380 production line alive. Though by 2019, even Emirates reduced its orders, leading Airbus to announce the end of A380 production in 2021. This high-capacity long-haul fleet was the piston engine that made their Dubai hub machine work. The 777s and A380s would fly massive waves of passengers from around the world who would connect through the perfectly designed Terminal 3 and fly out again. It was a strategy no one else could match. But even Emirates knows no empire stays frozen forever. After 2 decades built on just 2 aircraft types, the airline quietly entered a new chapter. In November 2024, Emirates took delivery of its first Airbus A350-900, the first new aircraft type to join its fleet since 2008. 65 are on order, alongside next-generation Boeing 787s and the delayed 777X. The goal is clear. Keep the heart of the two-plane philosophy, but add the flexibility for a future where efficiency matters as much as scale. But here's the final question. The model was perfect. Patient capital, a fortress hub, a premium product, and a simplified, massive fleet. Why couldn't anyone else stop them? And what was the one fatal flaw hidden inside this perfect machine? The competitors saw what was happening, but they were trapped. European and American legacy carriers watched Emirates grow, but they simply couldn't copy the model. They were stuck with their aging mixed fleets. They were bogged down by powerful labor unions and crippling legacy pension costs. They couldn't match Emirates' service levels without inciting strikes, and they certainly couldn't match the patient, state-backed capital model. So they did the only thing they could. They cried foul. In 2015, a lobby of US carriers furiously lobbied the government, accusing Emirates and other Gulf carriers of receiving over $40 billion in unfair subsidies. European airlines pushed for capacity caps at major airports like Heathrow to slow them down. It didn't work. Emirates was too big, too powerful, and their product was too popular. They had built an uncopyable model. But here's the paradox. The very strategy that made Emirates dominant also created an existential risk. That heavy reliance on connecting traffic. It was a vulnerability. That single massive hub in Dubai, it was a single point of failure. Unlike American carriers, Emirates had no massive domestic market to fall back on. All of its eggs were in one glittering Dubai basket. Click here to check out another one of our videos.